Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
Welcome to the Double D's podcast, which is part of the Hammercast network. I'm your host, Kevin Coleman, and on this episode of the podcast and the show, we have two special guests. Not one, we got two giant guests we brought in. First is John Bauer, who is the host of the Dynasty Theory Fantasy Football Show and the Fantasy Football Confidential Show. John, thanks for coming on.
Kev, thanks for having me. I'm not kidding when I tell you, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your rear end. I was so excited for this show and I give him a hard time, but to know that I was coming on with Dave as well, this is making my Monday significantly better. So I'm ready to rock and roll, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I don't want to overshadow our other guest here. It's Dave Wright, right? And he is the writer for DLF Football, a great website. Go check it out. And the co-host of a Tale of Two Rivals podcast. I had to throw that in there for his co-host in there. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Wow, this is just following up John Bauer. How can you do it? So I will echo his sentiments. I have been pumped. So, Kevin, we kind of been talking about this for it feels like 2-3 months now. Yeah. And now to actually be here, I am excited. And this topic is right in our wheelhouse. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah,
I know. Hey, we've all been talking about this for a while, and I'm glad to get you guys on. You guys are busy people, so just get you on, get some time in there. And so on today's show, what we're going to do first is we're going to be talking about rookie drafts. So everything preparing for rookie drafts, preparation. We're actually going to do a mock draft, and when we have that, that'll be towards in a few. But the first part, I want to pick these guys' minds, and especially people watching, is preparation for rookie drafts, and what do we do when we come into it, and where does that process go? For someone like me, I'm pretty big into Devy, so I know a lot of these guys already, and so my preparation is definitely a little bit different, but I'm interested to see the first part. And we have those big film scouting analytics fights. We see it every day on social media about BMI and all this stuff. John, what do you do when you prepare? Scouting, film, analytics, what do you tend to do, or do you do it all?
So I'm not much of a film person. I mean, you can look at me. I didn't really. Well, let me start over. I played Pee Wee football when I was like 8 and 9 years old, because I was gonna say, you look at me, not much of a football player, but I did have that storied history on the gridiron. But no, I'm not much of a film guy. But you can't ignore it. So I know, like, Dave, huge analytics guy, and I pick his brain constantly. I think every time he sees me in his DMs, he's like, "John, leave me alone, please, like stop." But there's a time and place for both aspects, film and analytics. But there are a lot of people in the industry that I trust, and people that you look to for that scouting and film approach, because there's some things, and we'll get into it tonight, I'm sure. But from an analytics standpoint, maybe there's a reason that player X didn't have this breakout age or, dominator rating, whatever the case may be. But then you watch the film and he really pops, and vice versa. So I would definitely say I'm more on the analytics side. I certainly don't go into as much depth and detail as Dave does, and I'll shamelessly plug our Patreon over at Dynasty Theory. I reached out to Dave and I said, hey, you put together this amazing database. Do you mind if I just scour some information and take it? And Dave, of course, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And he didn't even ask me to, but I was like, and I'm the channel in our Discord chat is Prospect Data Dave Wright. Like that, like his name is all over it. I have a thank you blurb, so allowing us to use that data just makes things tremendously easier for us to navigate. But I would say I'm a little bit more analytics driven, but I'm not a person that's going to ignore the other side of the film analysis.
Okay, no, that's fair. I steal all my stuff from Dave, so I'm just like you. Like I will blatantly say I steal it all. I'm in his DMs too sometimes. I know he gets mad at me. He's like, I'm in here all the time. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? So, Dave, I know where you're kind of leaning this, but what value do you see in what you do?
Well, honestly, not a lot of value, or else I'd be winning more titles. But no, this is where I'm supposed to tell you that, like, watching digitally stored online videos is for suckers. But I can't. Everything has value. I just choose to be an amateur numbers nerd because I enjoy it. I've had success doing it. But and just like John, I have a select few people that I trust on for film analysis. Yeah. I keep that circle small because they've shown me, one, that they're successful doing it, and two, they're focused on things that I care about of what's predictive for NFL success. I don't want film people telling me I don't want them just describing what happens. I can watch a film and see that. I want them to show me what is going to make them succeed in the NFL. So I do that, and then I take the numbers, and I don't think there's one skeleton key or anything like that, but I just like to use those numbers, find out what's predictive for NFL success, and compare those prospects to other prospects in the class, try to provide context for everyone and put everyone on the same playing field, then compare them, and then also compare them to previous year's prospects to try to get an idea of those, like how well I think they're going to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I like how you said you don't like people to tell you what you saw in film, because that's 100% true. I think people do that all the time. They'll pull up YouTube clips and be like, oh, look at this guy. He has good burst. It's like, well, okay, well, what is going to happen when he gets into the NFL? What are those skills? That's something I've been working on. So I'm glad you brought that up. But no, I agree. You guys got to find that analytics stuff and kind of there's room for everybody, right? Like there's room for everything. Just learn and grow. And you have to find those select few. Be careful with finding and listening to every hot take that's out there and on websites and all that. Find the people that you trust. And these are two guys you should be following and doing those things. John, the other part I want to go to is trading strategy for you guys. What is your strategy when you come into rookie drafts? I know, is it Keyshawn Vaughn no matter what? Do you trade back? Do you move up? How do you do this and how does it work? Because I know in startups you trade back like I think 75 times before you make a pick. So I want to know kind of where you're at in that.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up Keyshawn Vaughn no matter what, because instantly I lose all credibility. But
I had to just throw it in there. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. But one thing we should be doing is refining our process constantly. Yeah. And that's something, again, we're going to get into it tonight, but I don't, going forward, I'm not going to take a 23-year-old running back drafted in the third round.
Yeah.
Dave can tell you all about the hit rates. It's David Johnson. There it is. Boom, done. But yeah, so in a startup, I'm looking to move back, like you mentioned. But in a rookie draft, it's a little bit different. I'm going to get my guy. And if I think there's a certain point to the draft, okay, player X is probably going to be gone by the 112, I'm doing everything in my power to get up to that point. I'm much more willing to move up from the second round if I have to incorporate some future draft capital, so be it. We had a good conversation the other day in our Discord, and somebody was basically, the question was, where do you value 2022 first in relation to 2021 picks? And basically I said, like, if it's at the 201 and there's a player I really want, I did this last year with T. Higgins, and I was able to snag him 201, 202, and I had to move future draft capital, even if it was a first round pick. I'm okay with that. So start up, move back if possible, accumulate depth, pick up value. But in a rookie draft, I'm getting my guy.
Okay. No, that's fair. No, I think that's good. I think it's always, we got to refine our process, right? There's plenty of guys I've missed on, trust me. And it's just like, okay, what did I do wrong here? Let's move on. Dave, what about you?
So I'm going to chicken out here and say this is totally league, team, and calendar, time of the year dependent, because I think it depends on how your league, if they're overvaluing picks, then yeah, I'm going to shift towards going after veterans. And if my team needs to be, like, if I'm trying to rebuild a little bit or retool, then yeah, I might be more willing to acquire rookie picks and try to get some liquid capital that way. But I think an important thing is, if as the league calendar, certain values, they go up and down. Veterans at this time of year, nobody wants veterans. And as close you get to rookie drafts, I feel like that value decreases as well. So I'm more willing to switch. I'm trying to take advantage when the value goes up and down. And I also think, and I'm not actually doing a pretty poor job explaining that, but what I'll say is that I also think there is a chance when you look at the market early on in the offseason, there's still time to go get rookie picks. People always say, oh, don't trade your rookie picks before the draft. But I still think you look at ADP and everything like that, people still are trying to do their work on these rookies. If you are early to getting your evaluations done, you can go move up and get those picks before people catch up to your value. So overall, I am also like John, and I'll go get my guy, plant my flag, because that's the fun part about rookies. But I try to be flexible depending on the league settings and my league.
one thing I do want to follow up with, and Dave, you mentioned if you're rebuilding. So certainly there's a lot of gray areas. It's not, okay, I'm always doing this or I'm always doing that. But if I am in a rebuild or even a retool, whatever you want to call it, there are times that I will look to move, that 108 for 2023 first, 2022 second, whatever the case may be, depending on how in depth and deep I want to go with that rebuild. But yeah, there's never just a blanket answer that covers everything.
Yeah, it was, I know. I just kind of give you an idea kind of where are we at when we come into these things, because I think it matters. But also, Dave, you talked about getting veterans. Is there a tier for you that you like? Like, so if it's a late first, a wide receiver 2, running back 2, or does it just league dependent? It kind of depends for you.
So when I'm talking about veterans, I really care about their age production curve. So
Okay.
I'm an ageist. I used to pretend that I wasn't, but I am. I am just a blanket ageist, but with a caveat that I want to get out before you start seeing the leagues devalue players once they hit, like wide receivers, once they hit 27. I want to be out before then, but I want to hop back on the train once they hit 29 because that they've already devalued, and I can still get a couple elite years from Julio, DeAndre Hopkins, and those players. So I want to get off on when the value's dropping, but I want to get back on the train when there's still room to have useful production. Like Adam Thielen this year. Love me some Adam Thielen. Heck, I'm still on AJ Green. I can't help it. I can't quit it. I screwed up last year, but yeah, I'll give me some AJ Green.
Hey, that value's pretty low, Dave. You probably get him for pretty much a throw in right now. But no, I think that's a good point. No, I'm glad you brought that up. And I think you have to be ages to an extent, right? Like we all do. There is a cliff. But I'm glad you brought back the point. Hey, where's that value come back? Really quick, how do you guys kind of tier your stuff? Do you tier or ADP? I stay away from ADP. I'm just focused on tiers when I do mine. John, you the same way?
It's all tier based, yeah. And whether it is veterans and rookies mixed together, for me, and I'm going to get away from rookie drafts and go to startup mode very quickly. But if you have 6 guys tiered together, and they're the analogy I always use or comparison, you have 5 picks until your next pick, you're not going to move up. There's no reason to, because you have 6 players similarly valued.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to move value to get up there. And I just think it allows you to navigate through drafts, even rookie drafts. If you're in a certain spot, especially I think the second round this year, I'm sure all 3 of us, our second rounds look completely different. And I can't wait to get into it and to tell Kevin, Dave, how you're crazy. How could you take that guy there? But to have a tier system, it's still incorporating ADP and rankings, but it's giving you more wiggle room, and I just think it allows you to pick up additional value. Again, if you're in a rookie draft, the next 3 picks, they're all similar for you. If you can get that bump back, still get one of those guys and pick up a future third or whatever the case may be, that's how I'm going to look to approach it.
Okay. All right. Dave, same thing?
Not really. Like, yeah, I still rely on tiers to a certain extent, but I am a go get my guy kind of guys on rookie drafts. I just have more fun that way. Okay. Like, I want to plant my flag on a guy because honestly, it's a crapshoot for rookie players. You can have an idea of who's going to be good, who's going to be bad, and there's always the elite tiers. But when you get to after the mid first, it's getting like who I don't think anyone could have. I mean, there's a few people, but I don't think anyone could say that people would think that Justin Jefferson would be a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty right now. Like, it's a crapshoot to an extent. So, and then also, I want to use my process, but once my process is, I've gotten everything I can from it, I'm just ready to plant that flag and go after it. But I will say one thing about ADP is that there's no real such thing as there is ADP, but it's not real to an extent because there's no average player that exists in rookie draft. There's no 4.5 pick, and it's like I care more about ADP, the range, or like the standard deviation, to see the range players are going, because if I'm depending on, this guy's ADP 6, like he's the 6th guy off the board, there's a very good, that's an average. He could be going 4th, going 3rd. And if I'm depending on that in my leagues, and I'm going to be pretty ticked off if I'm just depending on ADP. So I think people need to realize that ADP is an average. It's not actually, it doesn't exist as that's the order that it's going to happen in your draft.
And I do want to say one thing. So whereas I said I'm going to get my guy, and Dave, obviously you're on that train, it's at that tier break for me. So if there's that tier break, you better believe I'm going to get that guy. But again, if I have 2 or 3 guys similarly valued and I don't feel strongly one way or the other, that's when I'm willing to take that bump back. But yeah, I'm still on board with get your guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think ADP is always league determinant, right? There's a guy that may be like a running back that he loves him, or he's an Ohio State fan, or he's this guy, and you just have to, it just depends on where that is. All right, good. Listen, these guys know what they're talking about, so I hope you're getting this stuff, because if you're listening and doing this is how you should be preparing for your rookie drafts. We want to get into the 2021 class now, and I know me and Dave talked about it beforehand, and we kind of talked about the class as a whole. I just want to hear it can be a long, or what do you think of this class as a whole? Is it, you can give it a letter grade, just any of your thoughts. Dave, what do you think as a whole?
So overall, I'm not as excited about this class as the initial impression that I've been given from a lot of people in the Devy community, mainly because this time last year, the clear strength of the class was running backs. There was a very solid crop of wide receivers and decent, like 3 decent QBs. And the tight end class was terrible. But this year, I'm not even sure if there's an elite RB in this class. People can make the argument for it, but there's definitely not a Jonathan Taylor in this class, or a Cam Akers. I don't know if there's a Cam Akers, and that's how I approach my rookie drafts. I build my teams to acquire running backs and rookie drafts, because I get there. It's a lot easier to predict volume using draft capital, and I get that. And there's also a wide difference between rookie, like where they're being valued and their actual production is for running backs, because the majority of the elite top running backs score their running back points in years 1 through 3, really. So and then it takes a while for ADP or market value to catch up to that. So I want to maximize that as much as possible and then move on. And so I'm just a little disappointed that there aren't the running backs class, but there are still some good players in this draft. But I'm kind of sad there aren't the running backs like there was last year.
Yeah. John, what about you?
I think, and everything I talk about goes back to Superflex. I'm not going to be talking about one quarterback format, but for me, it's you have a tier 1 player, you have a bunch of solid guys, but like Dave said, you're not going to get that Jonathan Taylor, that Saquon Barkley, that Zeke Elliott, or even to a lower extent, like a Cam Akers, like Dave said, but you're still going to have these running backs get pushed up. It happens all the time, even though people might say, oh, I'm going with this wide receiver. Those running backs still certainly get the bump. And for me, I think there's a very clear top 3 running backs. We might be able to debate a little bit that 3 and 4, and maybe draft capital could come into play and bump that 4th running back up. But then for wide receiver, you have a few that are seen as elite. And then I think you have 10, 12 deep that could surprise us. And and I'm not saying they're all going to be Justin Jeffersons. So, don't think that, but there are going to be some guys that surprise us, maybe get bumped up into that wide receiver 2 territory eventually. But like I said, the way we look at this draft, and we do this mock tonight, our second rounds and certainly our third rounds are going to look completely different. And I just think that speaks to there's going to be a lack of consensus opinion here, across the community. And every year we say it, but this year I certainly believe that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on the clear tier break for the running backs. I think after the third one, it's going to be crazy. And I think it'll be tonight too, the same way. And I think wide receivers too, I tweeted out something a few weeks ago. I said, there's more wide receiver 2s in this draft than wide receiver 1s. Yep. I think people are betting on these wide receiver 1s. And then the Justin Jefferson effect's a real deal, because everybody's going to think that people can come in and look what Justin Jefferson did. And I think he's an outlier. I mean, I'm not a numbers guy like our guy Dave, but I think he's an outlier in terms of that rookie year. What is he going to be? And go there. So I'd be very careful. You could probably get some of these guys after next year, because they're going to probably struggle a little bit more than those guys, and they'll be more valuable then to try to grab them. All right, hey, let's mock. So let's get started here. So we're going to start, and we're excited here, and we're going to talk about it. So what I did before this is we basically gave these guys, I ran a mock draft through the network simulator. So Draft Network Simulator, and they gave them all landing spots. So it's going to be a little bit of a different mock, because it's not just us mocking random guys. They already have a team. So when we announce our picks, we'll say what team they're on, and that will definitely probably play a little bit of a role where we go. Even for my pick here, I'm picking second. So Dave's going to go first. I will go second. John will go third. It'll be a snake. We will roll after that. So John's got that third pick, so I'm sure he's excited about that one. And this is a 12-team rookie PPR, no tight end premium. So we're going to go through it, and that's kind of how we're going to look at it. So you guys ready to mock, and we'll go through?
Let's rock and roll. Or should I say let's mock and roll?
See, I knew he was going to pull one out tonight.
Come on, that was a good one.
That's why we have him on here. It's for the puns. This was phenomenal. I'm a huge ROI so far.
That deserves a like if you're on YouTube. I expect us to get a like for every time he gives us a dad joke tonight. That's kind of how this rolls. All right, so Dave, you got the first pick. I want to know kind of what you're thinking here. Are you going to be contrarian, or where are you going to go with this one?
So after talking all kinds of trash about the running backs, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go Lawrence. He went to the Jags in this. Just quickly, when scouting QBs, I really want young, experienced, and efficient players. Lawrence is young at 20. He'll be a 21-year-old rookie. He has 40 games played and a 9.8 air yards adjusted yards per attempt. And he's got a solid rushing floor. He averaged 23.6 rushing yards per game at Clemson, and he's accurate and a solid QBR at 84.3. He's a no-brainer for me at this point.
Okay. All right. No, I know there's some people out there that think Justin Fields is the 101. You're not on that same minefield?
Not based on with Matt Ryan. Justin Fields is he went to Atlanta and Matt Ryan there. And I know that means that they're investing in Fields. There's a lot of capital going into him, but I'm just going to stick to the easy peasy. I don't want to have a lot of risk with my 101. Okay. I don't want any risk.
All right. No, that's fair. John, what do you think about
that? Without a doubt, it's Trevor Lawrence. But I do want to say, and this isn't revolutionary information, but just to get it on people's radar, if for some reason you don't have Trevor Lawrence as your 101 and you have the 101, try to trade back. If you really believe in Justin Fields, do everything in your power to get that 102. And I'm not advising anybody to take Fields, Harris, Chase, anybody else at 101. But in your heart of hearts, if you are going to take Justin Fields at 101, even if you get a future third, whatever, because if that's who you're going to take, you might as well get a little bit of value. But again, I want to make this very clear. I am not condoning that. So Trevor Lawrence, yeah, he's the 101.
Yeah, no, I mean, you want to try to get draft capital. So if you can do that move back, that's great. Now, I have the second pick. You know what? I'm going to go off the board here a little bit. I'm going to take Zach Wilson. He went to Carolina. So I'm taking the BYU quarterback based on his landing spot. I know Fields, he went to Atlanta, but kind of what Dave was talking about, he's going to sit behind Ryan. I still think that's a good spot, but my understanding is they're going to have them sit. And the recent Falcons thing that I saw, they said if they do take a quarterback, he will sit for a year. I actually like Wilson's upside. This is a ceiling pick for me. I'm gonna go for it. I love him in Carolina with DJ Moore. I have DJ Moore ranked really high in my wide receiver rankings right now. I love him. I love him with Robbie. If they can bring back Curtis Samuel, I love CMC. I love that offense for him. I think it provides some upside. In a super flex, I don't mind taking the risk.
I will say too, the attractive part about Fields is that if you look at how the top QBs are playing, that rushing floor is unbelievable. It is so valuable. So I'm really surprised that you went Wilson here. It's not my guy, but I think it's because of the immediate opportunity. So I understand what you're trying to say.
I think John wants to yell. Go ahead, John. What do you got?
I'm more upset. So on Dynasty Theory, Dan Lamagna, he and I and Mitch, of course, we're getting into some of these conversations, and we got into the Zach Wilson, Justin Fields conversation. So it's perfect that you took Wilson with the 102. But again, how much of that is the fact that in this situation, Carolina drafted him? Let's say Zach Wilson goes to the Jets. Do you pass on Fields there?
If Wilson went to the Jets, I'd probably take Fields. But I love Joe Brady, and I love that offense that they have in Carolina, and I feel like Carolina is a perfect spot for a quarterback. That's where I want Trey Lance to go. So I think that based on the surroundings, the management there, I think that makes a perfect spot for whatever quarterback goes there.
He's your prototypical quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And while he is more of a pocket passer, certainly than Trey Lance, Justin Fields, I saw somebody say Trevor Lawrence was a pocket passer recently. I saw that floating around there on Twitter. So we're going to, get away from that comment. But, Zach Wilson, he can still move. Yeah. He isn't a statue-esque quarterback like the Brady, the Rivers, the Matt Ryan, which you already mentioned. But he definitely gives you more of that prototype, you think quarterback, a little bit more of a pocket passer. And we saw, even though he struggled at times, Teddy Bridgewater was able to get that offense moving. And I think it's safe to say Zach Wilson is still a better quarterback than Teddy. And I love Teddy, but I can see him going at 102 in a lot of Superflex drafts, but I'm most upset because this throws off my 103.
Oh, well, then I'm happy about that. Go ahead, Dave. What do you got?
Just a quick question too. I think that Zach Wilson has a lot of holes in his profile from it. Now, first off, analytics is not the best way to go about scouting QBs.
Yeah.
There are a lot better ways to go and attack the QB position from a rookie, like trying to evaluate rookies. However, like I said earlier, you want young QBs, experienced and efficient with a rushing floor if you can. And Zach Wilson does have he is semi-mobile. He'll get like 2 points per game, maybe rushing for you. But the big issue that I have is that he only has 1 real year of production at BYU. He had a half a year too, but like the year before, but only 1 real year production. And that was a lot different than the rest of his production. So I get nervous when I see that kind of a big jump at 20 years old. Why didn't he show it to us at a younger age in the quarterback position? So that's my only concern.
So to be fair for Wilson, he did have his injury, so he basically had to have shoulder surgery, and that definitely hurt him. His freshman year, he did do the same thing, and he was battling with injuries, and then he had kind of competition there. So, and being a freshman quarterback coming into that situation, I'm just banking on this year was his year. This is what he is, and if he did this his freshman year, we would be talking. This would be a letter. I know he didn't do it, but if he did do this his freshman year, so my idea is, hey, this is his first real year. He's healthy. He's in a good offense. He's consistent. Imagine if this is his floor. Now
I like it. Come back, bam, bam. You came back with it. There you go. That's what I like to see. So yeah, I hear you.
So, John, you got something, or do you want to make your?
I'm
pick?
just wondering how much the level of competition throws us off. And if you go back, and again, this is me being a very amateur film watcher, right?
Yeah,
but his wide receivers seem to bail him out a lot. If you watch, that they went up and they made plays for him. And I know there were the surgeries and the injuries in the past, but he wasn't their locked in starter coming into 2020. He had to compete, just like you said, and he did just that. But for me, there is that concern with his profile. And Dave, you mentioned the holes in his game, but then also the level of competition that he played. Again, I haven't played organized football since I was 8 years old, but I think I could have tore some of those defenses apart, guys.
I was a big level competition guy, and I was. And then Felix Sharp, I don't know if you guys know him. He's a Debbie guy, and he talks to me all the time about this. And he says it's less important. And he talks about talent always outweighing field of competition. And he always says, hey, talent's going to rise. So you always want to scout guys based on talent first. And then, hey, field competition is what it is. He can only play with what's in front of him, and he did what he needed to do. And I trust Felix. He's a smart guy, and he's someone that I really, he's one of my guys. So when we talk about our guys, and he's been big on Wilson before he even did this year. And so that's kind of where this is coming from too, is my trust in someone that I know watches these guys. So that's there. All right, John, what do you got? 103.
All right, so I most likely I think I would take Justin Fields in this situation, but again, because he was drafted by Atlanta in this situation, he's not going to get that year one production. And with most of my teams, I am set. I'm doing this as if it's an existing league I have, obviously. I feel comfortable with my quarterback situations. And because of that, and I'm talking myself in a million different directions here, and it's a mock. It doesn't even matter, but that's how seriously I'm taking this for you guys here. All right, but I'm going to go Najee Harris. And I understand, I mentioned 23-year-old running back. But again, you look at the historical data, the small sample size, there are not many 23-year-old running backs that have the first or second round draft capital. Back to 2012, and this is courtesy of my friend Dave Wright and his fantastic data and information until he tells me that I messed it up, transitioning it over. But you have Doug Martin, you have Carlos Hyde, and you have Sony Michel. So it's 3 players, and that sample size is certainly not enough to say I'm going to fade Najee Harris. 10% receiving dominator rating in college. He gives you that production. He's able to catch the ball, and he's going to be a dual threat in the NFL, 3-down back. While he is older again, just like Dave said, a lot of the production from running backs come seasons 1 through 3. And we know that when a running back gets towards the end of that first contract, he might as well be dead in the dynasty community. So give me Najee Harris for 3 years, and he was drafted by the New York Jets. I want that offense coming over essentially from San Francisco. Yeah. We see how the running backs excel there. So, I just think there's going to be a lot of good things there in New York. Hopefully the culture on the field changes. I think that's going to be a word that's shoved down everybody's throats throughout this offseason, culture. But I do think if it's not Najee Harris, I'm going to like a lot of running backs that end up in New York. But Najee Harris, 103, that's my pick.
Go ahead, Dave.
So the only problem I have about landing the Jets is they took LaMichael Pirine in the 4th round last year. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence about their ability to evaluate running backs. And I know that we can play this game all night. But honestly, though, John's right. He hit the reception threshold, 43 passes. He's got a ton of touchdowns, 30 touchdowns last year, I think. But he did it at a slightly older age. My only question about Najee Harris is that, yes, age doesn't matter as much for running backs as it does for wide receivers, but I think it still matters. Not a lot of 23-year-old running backs are successful. However, why didn't he dominate that offense more in 2019? That's my biggest question. The same competition was there, essentially, but why didn't he take it to that level last year? I know he made some improvements, look better, but was it because he's older, stronger, faster, or was it because he is more talented? Ultimately, I think Najee Harris is the best running back in this class, and I'm happy with him here. I'm just incredibly shocked that he went over Fields, and Fields might have more rushing yards per game than Najee Harris does.
Let me get my rebuttal in. In most situations, even though we don't want to say not as much landing spot, but the opportunity there in year one, we all know that if Fields is taken by the Falcons early in the first round, he's the heir apparent to Matt Ryan, and he's going to take over eventually. Has the draft capital, has the rushing upside, the skill set. But if Najee Harris comes in and produces day one, if I wanted to, in most situations in leagues, I think I would be able to flip Najee Harris for Justin Fields. Plus, if I chose that route, but again, it all depends on your league. It depends on if the person with Fields is rebuilding what their quarterback situation is like. So there's a lot of variables. I just think Najee Harris is going to get that bump in value immediately.
Okay. No, I think the volume is key too with Jets, right? I think he's going to get a lot of volume, and I actually like that spot. I don't mind Najee Harris there. What are you doing now, Dave? You're at the 104. What do you think?
I'm really upset because I wanted to take someone else at the 104, but I've got to take Fields. Fields I would take him at 102 without blinking. I would take, and I've been happy. I said this again, but I can't stress the importance of rushing for quarterbacks, the floor that provides. And we saw Kirk Cousins last year. Kirk Cousins had a pretty decent year at quarterback overall. He had a slow start, but the problem was he didn't rush a lot. He actually rushed a decent, not a ton, but you look at all the quarterbacks who scored above him, a lot of them had rushing upside. And it changes the quarterback position. And they can say all they want that Matt Ryan's going to start the whole year. Fields is going to stay behind them. They said that when Baker Mayfield came in. They've said, like, Justin Herbert last year was supposed to have a lot of time on the bench, and it didn't happen. I think and Matt Ryan is not the same Matt Ryan. I think he's undervalued right now, but he has not been good. He's been volume dependent for a couple years now. The new coach coming in who might take some volume out of the sales from Matt Ryan. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Fields isn't starting by week 11, especially if it's a bad team.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think Atlanta's probably going to be a bad team. We can probably agree on that. The defense, unless they get some massive improvements there. Do you think that we're moving to, this could be a question for both of you guys, but that they always talk about the Konami code quarterbacks. Is that going to be the key of the future for fantasy? Or is it already here? So
on Sunday, what day is today? Monday. So yesterday, during our Sunday brunch over on the Patreon, half of the episode was about the quarterback landscape, scoring since 2016, what we've been seeing. And Dave would have been proud. I had a bunch of graphs. I had cool charts. Not cool. I mean, they were pretty plain looking, but I thought they were cool. But when you look at the transition from 2016 to 2020, quarterback 1 through 6 really hasn't been that different. But then once you get through 12, 13, 14, we're seeing that uptick over time because those are the rushing quarterbacks. And we're starting to see a bigger drop in, the percent increase from like quarterback 19 to 24 to the quarterback 6 range. Mm-hmm. We're seeing more of a gap over time, and it comes down to those rushing quarterbacks. Dave, you brought up Kirk Cousins. This past year, the big outlier up top, Tom Brady. Not much of his production. Yeah, I think he had 6 touchdowns, if I remember, or 5 touchdowns rushing, but a lot of his points are coming through the air. Then on the other side, the big outlier was Cam Newton. Almost half his points were made up of his rushing upside or lack of passing ability, but that's another conversation. But yeah, I think it drastically changes the landscape, and it just gives such a safe floor to these rushing quarterbacks.
Okay. No, I mean, that's fair. I like the big. I just think for me, I was going for higher upside with my 102, and I like that offense that he got into. So for me at 105, this is an easy pick for me. I'm taking Jamar Chase, and that's my guy. I wouldn't mind even taking him at 103, to be honest with you, if he's there in your drafts, just because of what we talked about with the running backs. I don't see Najee and these guys being those kind of transforming running backs that we looked from last year. There's not a Jonathan Taylor, these guys. I think Chase can be that guy. And I think that right now what you're starting to see with guys with Chase, he got drafted by the Jets in this thing. I wouldn't hate that. I think Darnold would have some weapons, and I think he would fit pretty well there. And I just think that he people forget because he opted out. He had 1,780 yards receiving, 20 touchdowns his sophomore year. His ability to track the ball. I think when I watched the film and tape, his ability to fight for 50-50 balls, track the ball, he just has the traits that you want to see from a dominant wide receiver. I think he's the true wide receiver 1 of this class, and after that, it gets a little murky for me. Jamar's my guy, so I'm going to go with Jamar at 105.
You didn't tell any lies there. He's my clear-cut wide receiver 1. And how much better does he look coming into his rookie campaign because of what we saw Justin Jefferson do last year? Mm-hmm. Like, it just, again, not necessarily saying his game is going to translate to the NFL the way Justin Jefferson did, or even he's going to have that type of rookie production, but it just makes you think, right? Jamar Chase is that dude.
Yeah. He's that guy for me. Go ahead, Dave.
I thought that's who I was taking at 104. When I laid this all out, I'm like, yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to have Chase at 104. And I had to take Fields, which I'm not going to complain. If that happened to a real rookie draft, I'd be totally fine with it. But yeah, Chase, even though he only had 1 real year of production, happened at age 19. He was dominant with Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and his 1 year, like 1.66 yards per attempt it's sexy. I'm sorry, that's elite type production.
Yeah.
And when he compares extremely well to successful NFL wide receivers, and he's incredibly productive compared to other SEC wide receivers in the history of SEC wide receivers. 2 big things: compares well to successful NFL wide receivers, and far exceeds his conference production. I can't find a hole in his game besides the fact that he sat out last season, and that's okay. It's COVID. Sorry.
I mean, that's going to happen, right? I think people are nitpicking now. He's been the one for so long that they're trying to find ways, and it's hot take season, right? I just think he's the clear one. I think if anybody's going to be wide receiver 1 from this class, it's Chase, and I would love to get him at 5. I know he's dropping, though, because I've done mocks and I've done rookie drafts, and I got him at the 7 and 8 in certain drafts, and that is just it's insane to me. I just laugh because if I can get him at that point, like that's one of those things. If he falls to 6 or 7, I'm doing whatever I can to trade up, and I'm going to go get him because he's my guy at this draft.
I'm usually like John, where I would be taking my entire dynasty history. I would be taking Najee Harris. I'm taking Jamar Chase in this instant, just because of the kind of prospect he is. So usually I'm like John, and I'm going running back, but just this year I'm the tie between RB scarcity and the talent of Chase. I'm just going to go Chase, but I can't fault John for taking Harris either because of the scarcity. So this is exciting. I'm already having a blast.
Well, all right. Who you got at 6, John?
All right. Let me just say, because I've been, thinking about this in my head. I have to admit, I cheated a little bit here because I knew I was going to have the 106. So I do want to clarify. Justin Fields because I don't want any of your viewers, listeners walking away from this. JB, what the hell are you? What are you doing? What are you saying over there? Justin Fields is my 102. But again, you took Zach Wilson there at 102. It really threw me for a loop. And 103 is that spot that if I am set at quarterback, and I feel very comfortable, I think that's the prime spot to land that running back in Najee Harris. But knowing that I had the 106, knowing that he was most likely going to drop to me, and he did. I talk about the competition concerns with Zach Wilson. They're there with Trey Lance. We didn't see him in 2020, but we talk about that Konami code. We talk about the rushing upside. Over 1,000 rushing yards there at North Dakota State in 2019. I'm going to take Trey Lance. I don't care. And we saw it with Jalen Hurts, 52% completion percentage, and not many people are talking about it. The only concern there is if the Eagles, they draft a quarterback there in the first, Hurts' dynasty value is gone, but people had him ready to be locked and loaded as a top 10 dynasty quarterback, and it wasn't for his accuracy, I'll tell you that. So Trey Lance, give me that rushing upside, especially in Detroit. I mean, with that defense, with what he's going to be able to do on the ground especially, give me Trey Lance at 106. One of the reasons that I passed on Justin Fields at 103, but again, I'm not guaranteed to have the 103 and 106 in every draft. So,
yeah, I love that. Trey Lance is my guy. He's someone I've watched. I think that I've wrote even a deep player dive on him. I think when we talk about Konami code, that's who we're talking about. I mean, he has such a high upside that it's insane. I don't think we've really seen his floor, to be honest. And I get the competition thing, but when you look at him and what he does, even when I was going through all my stuff and watching the tape and just going through him, first of all, he's accurate. His arm strength is one of a kind. I really love his arm strength and what he
didn't throw an interception at the college level.
Yeah.
Zero interceptions.
And that's why his decision-making, if you watch it, he actually does a very good job of checking down already. And I was listening to a podcast with Daniel Jeremiah, and they were already talking about when Trey Lance came in to interview, they said that he's been working with decision-making guys when he opted out or when he didn't have a season, of course. He's been working on that even with guys, and they're like, man, this guy already gets it. He already knows. And when you hear that from NFL guys and the processing guys, that just makes you even more and more excited. I think Lance might be the biggest steal of drafts, to be honest, when we come into it.
In most situations and people I've talked to, sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think a lot of people, they have Trey Lance as their quarterback 4. And if I'm able to land him as the quarterback 4, like I did here tonight, because you have people, crazy people taking Zach Wilson with the 102. Holy cow. No, kidding, of course. But I just think he's a tremendous value. And like you said, you were getting Jamar Chase and mocks at 107, 108. I think there's going to be some leagues that Lance even slips to 107, 108, 109, especially if you're in a league where leagues don't really value quarterbacks. And we know there are leagues like that.
Well said by both you guys. I will say Lance is my QB3. I would have taken him 103 if I just listing him down. And it's some people might be scared off because he landed in Detroit with the competition there with what's his face from St. Louis. Yeah, or Jared, not St. Louis, but yeah, Jared Goff being there.
Poor Jared Goff. He just turned into what's his face, that guy over there.
He turned into what's his face from St. Louis, not even Los Angeles.
I had to go back to the database. I'm like, wait a second, what team is this again? What's his name? No, they're just faceless people. No, but no, yeah, Lance, you guys said it perfectly. So the way I profile him is he's young, which is a plus. He is a little inexperienced, only 20 career games played at FCS level. That is a little bit of a concern. However, extremely efficient and didn't turn the ball over. I love me some Lance, and I think I'm very happy to have him at my QB3. If people want to take a risk, I think risk Wilson and Lance there's a risk to their game. There might be even a little bit of a risk with Fields, to be honest. There's actually a risk with all quarterbacks and all players, but I'd rather just bet on Lance, and I'm just really excited to have. I think this is a fun quarterback class. This is fun. We haven't had a class quite like this in a while, so I'm excited to get Lance here. Or no, you got Lance. Never mind.
I got Lance. You're not good. But Dave, I have a question for you because you brought it up. 20 career starts, at the FCS level,
or 19 under 20. I have in here off my notes.
What is there a threshold? Because there was a big red flag, and it's easy now to say Mitchell Trubisky had X amount of starts in his college career. Is there a study that you could just point us to? Hey, go check out this link that says you get to this certain point, you have this many starts, there is this hit rate versus this hit rate.
Yeah. Jim Sonis from Number Fire, now at FanDuel, he does some amazing work at quarterbacks. And if you just search Jim Sonis quarterbacks, and he breaks it out, he says experience matters, efficiency matters, and experience, efficiency, and I'm missing one. And age, being young. So experience at a young age, and then efficiency. Those are huge for him. So yeah, Jim Sonis. I really enjoy his work too.
All right. Yeah. No, I think I love Lance. So we'll move on. But yeah, go ahead, Dave.
And the threshold, it was 35 games. And it's a little bit different because of COVID this year, but 35 games at a young, that's why I love Trevor Lawrence so much. He's at 40 at a young age. That's right. Just, that experience is incredibly valuable. So that's the threshold, 35 games.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Now we're getting to the fun spot because I think we're getting to not necessarily a tier break, but it's coming close. So we're at the 107. We got Dave on here. Dave, where are you going with this one?
Guys, I'd probably think about trading back here, but I'm not going to because we can't. And I'm going to plant my freaking flag. I talked about him with Zach Reed on the Rookie Fever podcast recently. I'm going Rondale Moore. He landed in Atlanta in this mock. I love me some Rondale Moore. Eclipse 30% breakout age threshold at age 18. Early declare. 37.2% of his college's offense at the age of 18. Elite scrim yards per play as a freshman. Dealt with some injuries. Dealt with, awkward in out because of COVID this past season. However, Zach Reed, he tells me that he, from a film perspective, great at separation, great versus zone. He's a playmaker, dynamic. Has return ability on the special teams, and he's going to be a PPR monster with some more. He has more maybe scoring upside than maybe just an early career. What's his face? The PPR guy from Miami who's now on the Cleveland.
Jarvis Landry.
Maybe more dynamism than Jarvis Landry had. So I as a ceiling projection, yeah, I love me some Rondale Moore.
What do you think about that, John?
I mean, I trust Dave's opinion and I value it. I'm not a Devy guy, but once we start hitting the tail end of, especially the fantasy season there at the end of December, I'm hitting these guys hard. But for me, Rondale Moore, you mentioned it, the injury history, and it seemed like a player like Laviska Shenault, he kind of dropped for people because of injuries. Is there a concern that I got to find it. I don't know if it was Daniel Jeremiah, but maybe the NFL isn't as high on Rondale Moore as the fantasy community is. That could be. I mean, it's tough so draft capital obviously really factors in, but if he has day 2 draft, if he's a 1 through 3 round draft capital, I'm going to be very confident in him at least being in my tier 1 of wide receivers. If he's not around 3 wide receiver, then I'm going to drop him out of my first tier of wide receivers. But I have him slotting in after Chase, and I just like that floor too. I think he has a great floor to maybe the worst case scenario. Obviously he could never play a snap in the NFL, but like a realistic floor is maybe a Jamison Crowder. That's Zach Reed. That's how he kind of says. And people carried Jamison Crowder had wide receiver 2 type PPR production on a per game basis. So Jamison Crowder.
He's different. He's not the dominant big bodied wide receiver that people are used to, but he's got the traits of a good release, dynamic that will succeed at the NFL level. So, and I trust my guy, Zach, and the numbers show it. So I'm all in on Rondale Moore. And I think this is contrarian. This is not maybe what people would expect, but I'm very happy to have Rondale Moore. And
he can play second fiddle to my guy, Calvin Ridley, back here.
Yeah, so you guys asked about the Falcons. I'll be quick, but with Moore, nothing from a skills perspective, he does it all. There's nothing that's like, oh yeah, that's weakness. I just think John's point about injury, where does he get into in terms of maybe scheme based, right? Where is he going to get in scheme? And if the scheme works for him, I think he could be wide receiver 2 of this class. He's that good. People look at his freshman tape, you're just going to laugh because he is that dominant out there and how dominated he did as a freshman and his breakout there. I love that pick. And that kind of really ruins my pick here. So I'm at the 108. I thought I was going to be able to get more. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm really a zero running back guy at heart, and I'm not gonna take Travis Etienne. I'm gonna take Jalen Waddle. So I'm taking my guy Waddle. Waddle is someone that is my wide receiver too. I love Waddle, and I really think that Waddle can separate himself in this class. He's going to the Dolphins, so I think that I like his landing spot, obviously, just because I think that I know people don't like Tua, but I think that he definitely can. He can definitely kind of give them that. He's 4.3 acceleration. I love his eye discipline. He's probably has some of the best hands in this draft. I absolutely love his release from the line. I'm really big on release when I watch my wide receivers. I think he does it all. I love his acceleration. And before he got hurt, he could have easily been in the Heisman chase with Devonta Smith. Not even there. I love Waddle, and he's my wide receiver too, so I'm taking him off the board. I think I shocked him so much that they don't.
I'm just going to keep nodding.
How bad it is there.
I'm just going to keep nodding here. I'm just going to keep nodding.
I think there's going to be a clear separation between the film people and the Devy people with Waddle and people who are more numbers driven. If you squint and you try to go to a per game basis, he would have you could maybe say that he broke out in his final season. Right. So you can really squint and you can say he broke out, but as it stands, no breakout age. I understand the concerns about level of competition, but why don't people ever bring up level of competition with successful wide receivers I think people pick and choose when they talk about level of competition. And I think there are a lot of film people who like him. And I will say, okay, I think that you could be right. It's just not the kind of bet that I want to make, but I'm not going to call you is it a bad pick or whatever. I think that's fine that we just have different points of view. And I'm not going to say ha ha or anything like that. No, I just think our processes are different. I respect that. I think it's exciting that just adds another player to the wide receiver pool. He wasn't necessarily in this tier for me. And it just excites me that there's a lot of just the options. It's a smorgasbord here. People were I don't think I could have predicted how this was going to go. I had no idea we'd be going this way. And it's the first round. John thought the second round and third round. We're in the first round here.
Because Kevin screwed everything up with the 102.
I know. I'll take the blame. I'll take the blame for my Zach Wilson pick. All right, John, you're up. Who do you got?
Well, first of all, Dave, you say we're allowed to disagree, but be respectful. Listen, go on Twitter. Twitter tells you shouldn't be that. You can be disrespectful. You don't have to. No, I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, and that's what's fantastic about this. I said second or third round, just like Dave said. We're 109, and you guys threw me for 15 loops already. I'm going to go Travis Etienne to the Arizona Cardinals. He's my running back too here. Again, just like Najee Harris, he does present that ability to catch out of the backfield. A lot of this would come down to, if he goes to Arizona, Kenyon Drake, assuming they move on from him. Chase Edmonds, he's fine. But I think Travis Etienne, he carves out a very nice role for himself in what should be an improved offense and just another weapon for Kyler Murray there. Give me Travis Etienne at what? 109? Holy cow. I'm going to tell my family about this. 109.
I like Etienne. I'd be interested to see what Dave thinks. I think Etienne he's my running back too. I know some people have moved him down to running back 3. I think he really needs to go to a zone blocking scheme, and I think that he needs to go somewhere, utilize him in terms of what he can do well. And so I think zone blocking, being able to read blocks, I actually like his vision. Some people don't like his vision, but I actually really do. I think he's okay, and I think he'll learn at it. I think he was actually maybe too good in college this last year, so that's why he kind of ran into guys, and he had that really bad vision problem because he saw the field, he saw the holes, and I think that will actually translate pretty well in the NFL.
There's two things. One, we talked about Najee Harris not breaking out until he was 47 years old, but Travis Etienne, he did it at 19. So he did it early in his career. And when we thought there was a chance he was going to come out in 2020, people were so high on him. And I like you said, Kev, he was so good in college. I think people were just bored with him at this point. And because of that, let's spice it up. It's hot take season, like you let off the show with. Let's bump him down to running back 3 or 4. Or, maybe he won't even be drafted in rookie drafts by the time it comes around. But I just think he was so good in college. People want something new to talk about.
What do you think, Etienne did?
100% agree with what John just said. People get bored. The idea of when we're coming out is after your third year, there's so much potential, so much hype, and then when you come back for that senior season, it's tough to follow up a career like Najee Harris had. Etienne had. Etienne is actually in this scenario with him landing on Arizona. He actually would probably be my RB1 in this scenario. And just looking at it, and that just shows you that I'm just not thrilled about the RB class, that he'd be my RB1. But why is because I want him, that Arizona offense, a lot of scoring opportunity compared to the Jets. I think there's going to be a lot more exciting things for the Jets. And then also Etienne, people criticize his pass catching. He's not necessarily a pure pass catcher, but he did have 37 and 48 receptions in his final 2 seasons, averaged 21 points per game in college. And people realize this about Clemson. They were so dominant times throughout Etienne's career. And the same thing happened with Higgins back in the year before. When he was succeeding, they would pull them out of the second half of games. Etienne, I'm not, this is all hearsay. I never went back and I actually looked at box scores or anything, but people told me that Etienne would get like 3 carries sometimes in the second half, right? I'm not mistaken there, right? And he'd do that after having 140 yards in the first half or something. So I just think that part of that goes into my why he has such a low touches per game, because I want a running back who can be a 3 down back, who can carry the load, can receive, and be on the goal line and pound in the touchdowns. Etienne can score touchdowns. He has some receiving ability, and he has that home run ability that just on the Arizona offense excites me. And that's the tiebreaker for Najee Harris at this point.
And those receptions, they weren't cheap receptions there. If you go back, and again, man, I might actually be a film analyst at this point, the way I've been talking here. I'm surprised myself. But if you go back and watch the way he ran some of those wheel routes, there were contested catches. He was going up and getting the ball, not just easy dump offs with, minimal air yards. They were actually some down the field that he had to compete to get that ball. So I think you guys might be talking me, and I might be talking myself into Travis Etienne as running back 1 now. I don't know, but I got both of them, so that's great.
No, you're right. And Etienne does have pass catching ability, and he improved on something. They said, "Hey, you need to improve on this," and he did. I don't think there's anything else he needs to do. Like he did,
and he said he was afraid of. Didn't he say he was afraid to catch the ball? Or that wasn't great, but
he's back. He's all right. He's all right, John. He's okay. He got improved better. I think that, like we said, that's a great pick. It just is now. It's kind of with the running backs. Now we'll see where we go with these guys. All right, we are back. I believe back to Dave. What do you got at 110, Dave?
So this is in my process. This is when I'm getting a little bit less confident, because we're still only the end of February here. We've got a long ways to go in the rookie process. I've done a lot of work on the guys we talked so far. I'm not as much work, but I'm just not as confident on these players, especially not knowing draft capital. Draft capital is such a huge part of my evaluation here. Yep. That being said, I'm going to go Rashad Bateman. He landed in KC. I think there's a lot of opportunity to earn, and that's available. I don't want to throw out vacated targets or anything like that, because that'd be a sin. But there's a lot of
I think Peter Howard's ears are ringing right now. You say vacated targets.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not in the chat right now already. Just heard but I honestly, I don't believe the vacated targets things, but I think there's a lot of meat on the bone in that Kansas City offense. I think we saw how funneled it was to Hill, to Kelsey. There's room for Mahomes. Mahomes can definitely support another weapon. And Rashad Bateman, he early declare. He broke out at age 18 and eclipsed the 30%. The 30% dominator threshold at age 19, just incredibly consistent production, solid yards per attempt at a career average of 106. And from a film perspective, Zach Reed really thinks that he's skilled, doesn't do anything doesn't stand off the page in any one category, but incredibly well-rounded. And then also looking at his production compared to successful NFL wide receivers, does very well compared to successful NFL wide receivers. And also his production far exceeds what's typical from his college conference. So I don't think people are as it's not a sexy pick, but I really like the floor and potentially maybe a mid wide receiver 2 upside for Rashad Bateman, especially in KC with Mahomes.
Even without this landing spot, he's my wide receiver 2 in the class. And it's again, comes down to a lot of the things you just said. The young breakout age, the dominator rating, you look at those different metrics and measurables, and now you throw in Kansas City, where he has to compete with who? I mean, is DeMarcus Robinson still under contract? I know people want to talk about Mecole Hardman, but
Mecole Hardman, baby, let's go.
No. The real worry is Byron Pringle. No, I'm kidding.
No, Pringle, he might get 10 receptions next year.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what we're dealing with right now. There is so much room in Kansas City, but that takes away from how good of he is as a prospect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think I love that landing spot. When that happened, I was like, yeah, that would probably put him up there for me too. No, I agree. Now I'm at the 11th pick. And I'm going to take my first running back, Javonte Williams, and from North Carolina.
I thought I was going to get all three of them.
No, I got him. I'm going to take him, John, just for you. I think he has a good profile. I like my running backs to be at the 5'10", 220, 215. I do. I like that weight. He got drafted by the Broncos, and I actually don't hate that spot. I think they're going to move on from Phillip Lindsay, and Melvin Gordon is not good. I don't care what anybody says.
And he has 1 year remaining. That's all.
So, and I think Javonte could slowly take over that role. I'm not that worried about it. Plus, I'm at the end of my rookie draft here. I'm probably this is a guy that I can kind of afford to wait on a little bit. But if I think he's as talented as I think he is, I'm not worried about that landing spot because I think he'll be able to take that job over 4 or 5 games in. And just for him, he did split time with Michael Carter, but he still, he had 1,100 all-purpose yards. He is someone that I really he's just somebody that he scored 19 touchdowns. He finds the end zone. He turns positive gains. And one thing I always look into is positive gains. And he just turns into positive gains. And he's someone that I think at the end of the first, if you can get a guy like Javonte Williams, I think that's a steal.
And as long, Dave, you talked about it already, but as long as he gets that expected late second, early third draft capital, perfectly fine. We don't need him to be a first round pick by any means.
I do have a little concern about his athleticism. I'm curious about his top end speed. I'm not sure how you guys if you've seen it. I have not watched a lot of film. I've seen it 2 highlight clips of, but which is not filmed. But Zach Reed has him as his wide receiver or his running back 1 in this class from just a pure film perspective. And if he has the draft capital and the athleticism, he has the potential to be a 3-down type running back. I think that you really love sneaking in here at the end of this tier for running back too. So especially at this point in the draft. So pretty good pick here. I probably would have maybe gone up a little higher to get him if I had a couple more questions answered. But yeah, I like this a lot.
And not too long ago, he got the Daniel Jeremiah bump. If you're not following Daniel Jeremiah on Twitter, it's fantastic because it gives us an inside look to an extent of the NFL perspective and how they view these players, because I think it's so important. We're in our little Twitter fantasy bubble, right? Yeah. And pre-draft, we're hyping up the Hakeem Butlers, the Kelvin Harmons, and then the NFL says, hey, guys, fantasy community, we don't see them that way. Whereas, people like Daniel Jeremiah saying Javonte Williams, he does this pops off the page. I like the kid. Yeah.
No, I think he's good. And then I think that value, right, with these running back situations, after Najee and Etienne, it gets a little murky. And if I can get to Williams where I got him, I'm good with that. With the Broncos where he's at and his talent level, I do think athleticism, we'll see. I think it's 40 times important. We're going to see what he does at the pro day. And I think that is going to be kind of where we can make decisions based on that. But I'll take him here at the end of the first, especially because I thought I was going to have to take another running back at the end of the first. So, all right, John, what do you got?
This is going to be very quick. What do the kids say? Hashtag analysis. I think he's the only remaining player that can go in day one in a position that typically doesn't do that for the Los Angeles Chargers. Hunter Henry no longer there in this situation, I'm assuming. Kyle Pitts. He goes in. Justin Herbert, another fantastic weapon, even though it's not tight end premium. I actually have him at 109 in non-premium. And if you take part in any of the Scott Fish safe leagues with 2 PPR, I can see him going 103, 104, and I wouldn't be shocked. But Kyle Pitts, I think there is a very good opportunity for him to compete with Evan Ingram's rookie year numbers. I really do. And if you're in that Los Angeles Chargers system, I know there's going to be question marks with the coaching change, but Kyle Pitts, Keenan Allen obviously still there. Mike Williams, he's on that 5th year option, but I like Kyle Pitts in that offense. I almost said San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers.
Hey, we had the St. Louis Rams earlier. We're all right. Like we're just making teams up as we go. I wanted to answer. I was waiting to someone take Pitts. I almost took Pitts last. Where are you at with like the tight end landscape? I was always a firmly no first round tight ends if it's not tight end premium, and now I'm starting to shift a little bit with Pitts because the tight end landscape is so. I don't want to say it's barren, but it's very convoluted. Right? There's just after the top. Two, maybe one this year. Where are you with that, Dave? Are you okay with taking Pitts in the first round? Are you still, if it's non-tight end premium?
This just shows you the problem with scouting through spreadsheets is I didn't have him on my list, or else he'd been my 101. Because that's the way Twitter talks. Is he's the 101. He's not even the 101 of rookies. He's the 101 overall in fantasy football. Just listen. That's what I'm talking. But honestly, from Pitts, I think I would have actually taken him. I was hoping that he would slot in here for my pick. Yeah. But listen, once John even just started speaking, I just knew that he was taking Pitts. I do have a lot of hesitation with Pitts at this spot because of how the typical tight end production arc works. And I would be more willing to okay, let's see if he hits. And if he does hit, I'll pay up extra capital to get him once he hits. But even look at what Evan Ingram had the season he did, and look how we're treating Evan Ingram now. And I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen with Pitts or anything. It's just the tight end position is finicky, and I don't mind this. I think this is where to take him. I would have a problem, especially in non-tight end premium, taking him much earlier than this.
And it's difficult for me just to put on my typical PPR across the board glasses because I would say 95%, maybe even a little bit more, of my leagues are tight end premium, and most of them 2 PPR. So seeing him, I had him at 109 here, but seeing him at what? I should probably keep track of the picks.
112.
112?
Yeah.
I mean, I was ready to break my computer here, hitting that draft button.
Yeah. No, I think you're fair. I only really play in tight end premium leagues too. So but I know a lot of people don't. We're degenerates and we like that kind of stuff. So I wanted to see kind of where he was going to go in a non-tight end premium league, because some people, I mean, in a non-tight end premium, I saw him go 6th overall in a mock. That's way too high for me personally, because I can get another tight end I like in a second. But I like this pick where it's at. I don't mind him going at the end of the first. And if you won your league last year and then you get to add Kyle Pitts to that, that's a pretty good pick.
For me, while Kyle Pitts isn't a sure thing here, obviously his rookie season, there's just as many, if not more, question marks for me for a lot of the guys here that fall right behind Pitts in my tiers here. So,
and remember how long David Njoku, one of my previous bows, how long his value lasted for, even though he wasn't hitting. Tight ends, when you take them here, they do have a dip, but the buzz around tight ends, because people know that they take a while to develop, that buzz still is there. So it's not, while he might not be valued as a first round pick if he doesn't hit next year, it's still, people are going to be still buzzing about him. And I could keep going on about Kyle Pitts. I don't quite see it from a market share perspective. I don't think his season was as amazing people are making it out to be, or his career is, I should say. But I just have to listen to what people are saying from a film standpoint and other things that I just have to. I'm just saying that I'm not seeing it from a numbers spot. It's hard to see tight ends that way from a pure spreadsheets type of analysis. So I just say, okay, I'm going to trust people with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I think he's just an athletic unicorn. He's one of those guys you're like, oh, I see it. I think numbers, though, he didn't have Brevin Jordan numbers are pretty close to Kyle Pitts, to be 100% honest with everybody out there. He had some dominating games, but numbers-wise, you could kind of make cases for other people. So I agree. All right, well, hey, we're in the second round now. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I want to see where we're going to go now, because now this is where I thought the first round was crazy. The second round's probably going to get a little crazier here. Dave, what do you got with the first pick in the second round?
So this is what I'm going to say is that all of you film haters out there, you numbers haters, all of you film loving people who are just turn up their noses at us for not liking certain players for certain reasons. You know what? I'm standing on my pedestal and I'm taking Devonta Smith, baby. People think, oh, you numbers nerds are going to hate Devonta Smith. Well, guess what? I'm taking him right here. And we got Mr. Devy himself. Kev is in this mock, and I'm stepping up and I'm taking him because honestly, BMI does not matter. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter.
BMI.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Incredible. Incredible peak production. Yes, a later breakout age, but it still happened in the window that I want from 18 to 20. And yeah, and then look, check with the film people. They love him. And at this, the upside that he possesses, taking him in the second round, yeah, I'll give me some Devonta Smith. I'm fine with missing as my second round pick here.
I have him at 112, so I can't even argue.
Yeah. No, I don't mind it. I mean, he went to the Patriots, so maybe that's something that, you look at. But I was going to take him next, actually, so I don't like you very much, Dave. I thought maybe he was going to slip to me, and I'd be like, all right, I got Devonta Smith. But no, I think BMI – now, BMI does matter to me a little bit. I think it concerns me a little bit. He's got to get up to that, 175 for me, I feel like. I don't know. If he's under 175 – I'm going to get a little nervous, to be 100% honest. I want him to come in at that different way because you see all I don't know if you've noticed that, but you see the hit rates based on that. You know the hit rates better than I do. The hit rates kind of worry me a little bit. Maybe not for you, they don't, but they do for me. But in the second round, I don't mind it. So it's all about value, right? So I don't mind this pick in the second round. Now, are you taking him in the top half of the first round?
No, I'm taking him after Rashad Bateman.
That's where I'd be at, right? I think some people might take him a little higher than I would do.
I just want to say here about BMI. I'll give my quick shtick of why I don't believe in BMI. I've done a lot more work than I'd like to admit on BMI, and I used to be a huge BMI believer. But if you look at the curve of BMI, dating back to 2003 or 2009, however you want to look at it, the curve for BMI wide receivers, it's pretty evenly split. I can't really get in the camera right, but it's very evenly distributed, and it goes like this: that all wide receivers. It's pretty evenly spread out. Yeah. There's just not a lot of wide receivers with that BMI in the NFL. That's just how it's.
And then goes back to the sample size thing that we talked about with Najee Harris.
It's sample size. It's all it is sample size because there are successful wide receivers under that BMI. And if you look at the curve for successful NFL wide receivers, the curve matches. So if it mattered, you'd expect the curve to change for successful wide receivers. This is a sample size issue. Now, is it concerning? You don't want a 115-pound wide receiver in the NFL. I'll go that far. But he did it in the SEC at a high level. He met age-adjusted production thresholds. Is he my wide receiver one? No, but I could go on and on. But yeah, BMI I think does it matter to an extent? Yes. I think it's just incredibly, incredibly overrated.
Kev, with no combine, at his pro day he's coming in at 195.
Yeah, they got the weights in there. Yeah, I know.
He's on the spaceman diet. That's how he gets up to 195.
Yeah, trust me, I feel there. No, we agree. I think that's good. Now I'm at the 202. It's really between two guys for me at this spot, and I've been really stressing about it as I've been looking at it. But I'm going to take Terrace Marshall from LSU. He's going to the Eagles. I considered a running back at this spot, but I'm going to take Terrace Marshall, and the reason why is because he's actually my wide receiver 3. I love his profile. I'm really high on him compared to other guys. I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at a little bit here, but I just love his profile. At 6'3", 200, his athleticism. He's actually pretty good at catch point, and he has a big catch radius. He's not going to have elite speed. I don't think he's going to come in and run a 4.4. He's probably around that 4.5 range. But he has that natural burst, and for me, it's the athleticism. And I don't feel like missing on a guy like him in a second. He's worth it at this point for me because I think his ceiling is definitely higher than at the 2.02. Second pick in the second round. But I love Marshall. I'm a big Marshall guy. I know the numbers may not pan out just because he opted out last year and he basically opted out in the middle of the year, but I'm good with Marshall here. Even last year, before he opted out, he had 48 catches, 731 yards and 10 touchdowns. And he didn't have the greatest quarterback play. Trust me, it was awful out there in LSU. So I'm going Marshall.
This is the point now, like I said, wide receiver 4 to 12. If we had to redraft this after the 2021 season, any order would not surprise me. Yeah. It really would. And Terrace Marshall falls into that category. I have him sitting there right around 204 to 206 range. Like you said, 6'3", big body receiver. A lot of the analytics boxes, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but he checks them. The age coming in, the dominator rating. I know the breakout age of 20 is a little concerning. Maybe not concerning, but it's not 18, 19. But am I wrong there? I think Terrace Marshall, maybe he is somebody that won't be hated by the analytics community. And as I say that, Dave's probably like, I hate him.
No, he's just a player where I kind of, before I listen to other people talk about him, I look at his, I can't tell you why he only played so many games. I look at his market share and I'm like, that's not the market share that I expect, but he still broke out. Yeah. And I think it was a little TD dependent. I think it was a little TD inflated, and you have to actually worry about TD inflated type breakouts and especially in a small sample size that he had. But no, he does hit the 20. I don't differentiate from an 18 to 20 breakout age. Breakout age doesn't work. In my opinion, the way that I've seen it work is just because you're of 18 breakout age, that doesn't automatically make you better than someone who has age 20 breakout age.
Right.
Age is not a skill. It is breakout age is it encompasses a lot of skills. The idea is that it encapsulates a bunch of different skills, and that's why we use it. But it's not like a linear type stat where you go, oh, you're 18, that means you're better than 19.
But once you get to 21, is that a cutoff there?
It is a cutoff, but you can also then you and then it gets a little bit trickier because then he just gets into a late breakout type. He gets into a late breakout conversation, but that's not a death sentence. It's just like I'm usually trying to go in a different direction at that point.
All right, that's fair. All right, what do you got at 203?
Oh, shoot,
John's
I'm up.
No, John's up.
I'm the running back man. I'm going Kenny Gainwell, and I talk about the Daniel Jeremiah bump. Kenny Gainwell just got that. So, this is from his tweet. I think it was earlier today. Vision, burst, contact balance. He can line up in the slot or out wide too. True 3-down value. And I can get that at 203. And with the Miami Dolphins, a team that ideally, if they can play defense and run the ball, and Tua, presumably he's going to be their quarterback in 2021, they don't want him firing the ball 40 times a game. So I think Kenny Gainwell, Miami, I keep saying it because a lot of people are asking questions about Myles Gaskin, right? How do you see him in 2021 and for dynasty purposes? I keep saying I see Myles Gaskin on the wrong side of a running back by committee. And Kenny Gainwell, I still would see it that way. But give me Kenny Gainwell, somebody that, again, I keep referencing Daniel Jeremiah, sees him as a potential 3-down back. Give me Kenny Gainwell at 203. And, man, I'll buy you guys a nice steak dinner with the league winnings because I'm taking home the title here in 2021.
Imagine if his weight was the draft capital, like 203 weight too. That'd be like
right. I know we just got done talking about BMI. I know a lot of people keep saying, well, let's see what he weighs in at. We want him to get a little bit bigger, but again, if you watch some of the film, there aren't many times that he gets hit and goes backwards. He's driving forward. He's breaking tackles. And just like I said, the contact balance, we see that with Kenny Gainwell constantly. Once he dominates here in 2021, I'm going to transition strictly to Kenneth Gainwell. But for now, he's going to get Kenny every once in a while from me.
That's fair. I like Kenny. I almost took him last pick. I think that he can be a 3-down back. Now, I really want him to get to 200. He opted out. He got nothing else to do for a year. I had a year off and I gained like 25 pounds, Kenny. So I feel like you've been working out, getting those protein shakes. I feel like that you could try to get to 200. If he gets to 200, man, he's my running back for sure. And I would maybe even consider it, depending on landing spot. I would love to see him go to the Cardinals, to be honest with you. I'd love to go there, and because I think that would be a great fit for him. But I like that pick. I think it's a good pick. I was really between him and Marshall.
He's my favorite running back in this class. Like, he's my favorite. Just when I went through the first time I looked at the rookies, he stood out as a player. I was like, oh, reception upside. I think it was like 16 attempts per game, over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. There's a lot to like about Kenny Gainwell. I do have some question marks. Now, the same thing with BMI, actually. If you look at the same curve, it happens. Like, hey, we want to talk about BMI. You're missing out on Jamal Charles. If you want to do the BMI game, you're missing out on a lot of good running backs if you want to play the BMI game. And I know you have to look at your misses as well as your hits when you're using stats to project players. And I don't want to be missing out on the Jamal Charleses. I'm sorry, receiving upside. And with Miami, I actually think that maybe Gaskin would be on the heavier side of the duo. But either way, I just like how they would complement each other. Because I think I think both Gaskin and Gainwell, you can't necessarily predict a run coming up. They can catch or or rush. So I like that for having when they're from a scheme standpoint. So that's exciting.
And I'm gonna pull a trick here from Dave. Almost 12% receiving college dominator behind Demetric Felton. When you look at most of the running backs there, and he was. You look at Memphis, the running backs that have come out of there. Yeah. A lot of college production from Henderson, Pollard, and I know how it has panned out up to this point. Why is Kenny Gainwell going to be different? We'll see. We'll see if he is different when it comes down to it. But at the 203 or whatever pick it was, I like it.
Well, he was able to keep Antonio Gibson off the field, and if Antonio Gibson turns into whatever,
Antonio Gibson too, right.
If he's able to do that, then that's why I liked him at the beginning. Then he opted out. Then he kind of went, oh well, now we got to wait, just play the waiting game. So I know I like the pick. I think it's really good. I hate that I have to compliment you on that. And Dave, by the way, too, people don't ever look up their misses. That's not what this game's about. That's not what Twitter's about. They only hit their hits. They're all 100% correct. There's no misses.
No.
Come on.
I always tell Mitch and Dan this. I hide in plain sight. I'm going to be the first one to call out my misses just so other people can't.
Yeah.
That's why I had the ongoing Keyshawn Vaughn joke. Listen.
This is why you're on. I appreciate that.
I'm going to own that miss just so then, because you see what people are like on Twitter. If you have a miss, it doesn't matter what you get right. They're going to come after you for that one miss, even though my list of misses, it's endless. But
all right, Dave, go ahead and you can say it, and you have a pick, so you can pick when you're up too. I just want to say too, I think you learn more from misses than you do from hits. I think sometimes sometimes you can make the right pick for wrong. A lot of times, actually, with rookies, you make the right pick for wrong reasons. You're like, oh, he's going to hit because of the landing spot, and this and this is going to, and you just look at actually why you pick certain players, and you're probably wrong more than you are right. And I just David Wilson, like I don't want to get into my misses, but I just think that you learn more from your misses, and it's not that I like to just get in front of the train too, but I just really want to learn. I'm not a pro. I'm an amateur. I want to get better, and that's how you learn. And unfortunately, I'm probably not going to learn from this next stupid pick that I'm going to make. I have a lot of decisions. I think I could go 3 different ways at least. I'm going to go with Elijah Moore landing in Buffalo with Josh Allen. I really like him taking over. Now, this is just I kind of cliche analysis, but he's taking over the Cole Beasley role in the slot. He's a slot type player. I actually hate that I led off with that, so I'm going to lead off with something better. 3 early declare, eclipsed the 30% breakout threshold at age 19. He had a great production throughout his career. From a yards per attempt standpoint, well over the threshold. And according to Zach Reed, he has the best hands in this class. Yeah, he's a slot receiver, but he's great at creating yak. Excellent versus zone. I guess he does struggle against man, apparently. This is some Zach's notes. And maybe people might worry about his overall ceiling. But in the second round of drafts, when we're seeing leagues go to more flex-heavy formats, and when you want to win the flex, I want to win those flex with my PPR wide receivers. And I like having Elijah Moore attached to Josh Allen in a very pass-happy offense. Give me Elijah Moore here.
I'm a big slot receiver guy, and people always try to slot shame me. There's another pun right there. And that's the last one. I got 2 puns in, but no, like I said, Jamison Crowder, even Cole Beasley. You mentioned Cole Beasley. He's somebody that was free, absolutely free, and put up wide receiver 2 numbers. And it wasn't just because he stayed healthy for the whole season. I like Elijah Moore. I'm a huge Josh Allen guy. Over 35% rostership on my dynasty teams. So I love that offense. And Elijah Moore, based on what people are talking about from a film perspective, analytics side, Dave, you obviously like him. He's somebody that's been rising up my board, as this offseason has progressed. And we still have, we have plenty of time until the season kicks off.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. I like Moore. I just wrote a kind of thing on him today, and I think that's slot receiver, but I love his spot. Buffalo, you can pair him with Buffalo. I think he takes over with Allen. I think that's a great pick. I'm up at the 205, and I'm between guys. You know what? I'm going to take Mac Jones, quarterback, and in a Superflex league, I think that, draft capital, I think he's going to get drafted pretty high. I think the reason why he hadn't really gone yet is he went to the Raiders. That's where he got drafted at. I still think I don't think Gruden likes Carr. I don't think that he's wanted him as his quarterback for the last couple of years, but there really isn't an abs there. So I could actually see a role where Mac Jones comes in, Carr struggles the first few games, and then Mac Jones kind of takes over that offense. And in Superflex leagues, I do value the quarterback position, and I really value kind of that draft capital there, especially with the quarterback landscape the way it's looking at. I don't necessarily like Mac Jones that much. I'll be honest. I think he's accurate, and I think that he can be a very serviceable quarterback. But this is just one of those picks I got to take him because he's still there, and it's Superflex, and I'll use the value. So I'm taking Mac there.
That's exactly it. There's nothing that I absolutely love about him, but if you can get for whom the bell tolls, anytime you can add a backup QB, you have to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he gets the first round draft capital, outside of very few players, did we, Jordan Love, that's still to be determined. Yeah. But if you go in the first round, you're more than likely, unless something crazy happens, going to get a shot. Once Mac Jones, wherever he gets drafted, becomes the starter, if he gets that first round draft capital, you're going to see a spike in value. So love or hate or in between Mac Jones, once he gets the starting job, ship him off.
Yeah.
Capitalize on the value.
It's just a value pick for me.
Just using kind of like my QB process, he's an old quarterback. I think he's going to be 23 going to the NFL. Inexperienced, under 20. Like what I actually have to scroll down my sheet here. Does not meet the threshold for experience. And you can explain, there's reasons why. Yeah. However, there's just a lot of, and then no rushing upside whatsoever. Right. But except he was incredibly efficient. Some of the more efficiencies we've seen in college, and he did it an amazing QBR in the high 90s without rushing upside, without being able to rush the ball is insane. So he definitely and he's incredibly accurate, which gets me giddy. In years past, I'd be a lot higher on Mac Jones. I understand. I think you're right. The position scarcity and going this way, but I don't hate it. Yeah, I think it's just this when you have to play. We're playing fantasy football here. We're not playing real football or whatever. You have to play to the rules that you're playing, and it's Superflex.
Yeah, and I actually like the Raiders spot because I think that they don't really value running quarterbacks, or they in that West Coast offense with Gruden, he would like a guy like Mac Jones. I actually think that's a really good landing spot for him. If he goes to a place that wants him to do more than what he is, then he's going to struggle. But I don't think the Raiders will ask him to do too much, and I think that's a perfect offense for him.
No, it makes sense. Or even a spot like, not saying this is going to happen, but a spot like San Francisco, where they're looking for like a game manager type, because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is absolutely out of this world, but again, not known for his rushing ability. So there's certain offenses and certain styles and systems and coaches that certainly aren't looking for that Konami code, as people like to constantly say. So Mac Jones, he certainly still has a spot in the NFL, even though overall I think things are changing. But
all right, John, what do you got? You got 206.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, my wide receiver 4 in the class, the young breakout age. I just think what he did with Michael Pittman lined up in the same wide receiver core, it was impressive. Over 70 catches, over 1,000 yards. And there's something with, and Dave, I wanted to get your thoughts on this at some point tonight, so this seems like a good spot. Constantly we look at wide receiver cores and we say, well, so-and-so did this, but he was in the same wide receiver core as this receiver, this receiver, this receiver. And Alabama was a good one, right? Ruggs, Judy, Devontae Smith, Waddle. But you're making that assumption that the receivers he's with are going to be NFL caliber and, strong receivers. And my point is, Michael Pittman, we saw flashes there in 2020. I'm not saying, he had a fantastic rookie campaign, but we certainly did see stretches. And I just think it's more of a positive for St. Brown. One thing that I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get knocked down a little bit because of the limited schedule they played here in 2020. They played 6 games or so. And again, recency bias kicks in. People only saw that limited sample size here recently, but also I'm over here in Pittsburgh. I'm out east. You don't see too many USC games. You don't see it. So I think that I think he could be knocked down a little bit. I have him as my wide receiver 4, and at the 206, 206,
yeah,
206, I'll take him. And I couldn't take another running back. So
just to answer your question, I think so. The thing with analytics or just numbers or however you want to approach it, when you feel something like in your gut, you think something matters, you have to you try to want to find out. You want to try to test the hypothesis as much as you can. So far, what Peter Howard's used, what I found, what others have used, it's tough we haven't found a good measure that tells us that teammates matter as far as, when you compete against other teammates and you have a good percentage of the offense, we can't find a way to measure it accurately and show you that it's predictive. But instinctually, I understand why people think that. So I just because we can't measure it yet doesn't mean it's not true.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And Dave, thank you for that, because it's something you hear about always. Oh, well, so-and-so, I mean, Henry Ruggs, that was a big one last year. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, drafted by the New Orleans Saints, he's going to be looking good catching passes from Jameis Winston.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I like Amon-Ra. I think this is a perfect spot for him. But I think you actually got him a little higher than I've seen. I've seen him go in the third round in a couple of drafts, and that's insane. If that happens, that's a steal of a steal. That might be the biggest steal of your rookie draft. But he's going to go in a second. I think if you're drafting with legitimate guys and you're in a good league, I think that he'll be good. This is about where his spot is. So I like it. I think he can score. He marks those intangible boxes. I know that's not an analytic term, but he has that. This dude's he's just a guy you love watching play football, and I think that he'll fit well as a slot receiver. And I know you love your slot guys, John. So I think he's going to fit well, and I think that's actually a pretty damn good spot for him. I actually like to go to the Packers too. That's one of the spots I kind of
that's the spot for everybody.
I know. Every time, hey, you got to mention the Packers. Every time wide receivers out there, we got to mention the Packers. Yeah. But I like that part. All right, Dave, what do you got?
Last thing, you mentioned seeing some mocks where he goes third round. St. Brown's going to be that player this year that if I have an early to mid second, I'm going to have so much exposure to him. And I mean, hopefully he is not the equivalent of my Keyshawn Vaughn pick last year.
And you are right. He does meet a lot of analytical thresholds. Like he got better each year. He had excellent age-adjusted college production. It's tough to find a hole in his. I think I understand why you have him here. I just don't have him that high. But I will say, moving on to my pick, I actually am struggled again because none of the guys that I was thinking about when I took Elijah Moore last time have gone. So I'm just going to go down the board and go Tylan Wallace.
I knew that's who you're going to. I knew it.
Yeah, I love that him landing in Washington, providing another weapon to go with Terry McLaurin. I think that's why I'm so excited, because just the idea of having another weapon to go with Terry McLaurin. But incredible age 19 breakout, just dominated age 19, tore his ACL, and still had an impressive year just as from a market share standpoint, and then came back quickly after that injury and still had another good season. Metrics extremely well. His when you compare him to successful wide receivers in the NFL, he fits right, not better, not worse, just a spot on, and his production is well above his conference average in college. So I really hope I feel like my Bryan Edwards this year. I had a lot of Bryan Edwards early to mid second round, and I think that's just how Tom Wallace is falling for me this year.
Here, I have a quick question. I can't ask Dave because it's a film question, and that's an F word that Dave doesn't use. It's very vulgar and inappropriate. But Kev, Tylan Wallace, a lot of people are saying he's not physical. He doesn't get off press coverage. Did he face a lot of press coverage in college? I don't know the answer to that. Is that a concern for you?
I think the strength off the line is, but I think that his release is pretty good and he's got pretty good footwork. And he doesn't face a lot of press coverage. Like when you hear guys say that, I think that's a lazy sometimes. Like, how many Oklahoma State games did you watch? Did you watch, like, how many were you out there? They weren't watching a ton. I think that he faced sometimes press coverage, but he is quick enough that if he gets off his route, he has good enough footwork to get back into his route. So I don't necessarily mind it. It's something he's got to work on. So let's be honest, that's definitely something he's going to work on. But I think that those skills outweigh his negatives. I love Tylan Wallace. I think that and I love that spot, like we talked about with Washington. But no, I think it's a concern-ish. But I mean, that's something that he can work on in NFL coaching. Oklahoma State doesn't have that's an okay program. When he gets to the NFL, they can teach him how to get away and use his leverage. So I agree that I don't know what you guys think about him, but I think that he's kind of universal where he can play. I think he's pretty versatile. I think he can kind of get moved around, and that's the other thing I like about him. He's a universal kind of weapon.
After we're done here, I'm going to report back to Linda at Lidellians on Twitter because she loves Oklahoma State. She loves Tylan Wallace. So she's going to be absolutely thrilled. This is going to make her Monday that Dave took Tylan Wallace, and then Kev, you had some nice things to say about him.
Hey, he's not making Linda happy. That's what I'm here for.
Trust me, you don't want to deal with her when she's in a bad mood.
No,
she's yelling at us in our fantasy football confidential chat. I'm like, Linda, sorry, sorry.
So we're at 208, and I'm taking, I'm taking Brevin Jordan. He's my guy. He went to the Bengals, and he is somebody who I think is a versatile athlete. I love his landing spot. He's a tight end I'm looking to grab in the second round. And he's someone that I'm okay missing on Pitts if I can get Brevin Jordan, especially in tight end premium leagues. I'm really okay with that. I think he does a couple things that people don't realize. His hands are great. I mean, he's he has some of the best hands in college football. His yak ability, his athleticism, and he actually is a pretty damn good blocker. So when you're going to see him and we're talking about like, hey, will he show the willingness? Can he get out there? He's 245. He gained weight this year. So for me, it's Brevin. I'm interested to see what you guys think about that one. But Brevin is my guy. I think the one weakness he has had injury issues. Not an injury guy, but he's and his ability to create separation. Sometimes that is a lack. But I think that's something that he can learn if he gets into an offense with the Bengals and with T. Higgins and those guys out there with Tyler Boyd. I actually like that spot.
In an offense that we saw C.J. Uzomah and Drew Sample utilized in that offense, if Brevin Jordan goes to Cincinnati, even in typical PPR, I have no issue. Again, we're in no man's land here. This draft, you could talk to 100 different people, and their draft is going to look completely different from what we've just done tonight. So I get your guy.
I think there's a hangover from how bad the tight end class was last year. The people are not realizing how. I think this is a pretty freaking good tight end class. Maybe it doesn't have Kyle Pitts might be the true the tier one, the blue chip, but I think Brevin Jordan is a very attractive. Actually, Kev, I think I read your article on Brevin Jordan. I was for Hammercast, right?
Yeah.
I read that and I really enjoyed it. And actually, that's probably where I get a lot of my. I'm trying to think, why is he saying things that I really agree about? It's like, because I read that article. So, but yeah, his production, I think he was right in line with what Kyle Pitts did from a production standpoint. Yeah. And yeah, I really like some Brevin Jordan here. And I like they didn't take the guy that I wanted. So it's a double win.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm happy to help you out. John, go ahead. Where you at, 209?
All right. So I have to pull it up here because I should have had more information on like the draft pick where these players actually went. But we have I don't want to say his name yet because I want to see something here. Okay, perfect. Pick 88. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I'm going another running back, Michael Carter. It's an interesting landing spot because a lot of people, I've even seen people saying Najee Harris to Pittsburgh in the first round. Once Mike Munchak left there as the offensive line coach, and Mitch and I over at Dynasty Theory, we have been talking about this for almost 2 years now. It was going to be a concern. And not only, with Pouncey, with him on his way out, the offensive line wasn't what it was before, and we saw that with the way they utilized the short passing game. But from hype alone, from presumed opportunity, Michael Carter taken in the third round by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I will take him here towards the tail end of the second round.
I just really liked what you said about the Pittsburgh. I think it's almost like how people viewed Dallas Cowboys, how their offensive line was more name-based as time went on. And I think that's what we're seeing with Pittsburgh here. I don't hear enough people talk about it. And offensive line is very volatile year to year. So just picking someone based on where their landing spot and how good their offensive line was the year before is a risky game. You want to care more about their profile, their draft capital. But yeah, I understand there's a lot of things I like about Michael Carter, but I just wanted to say I really enjoyed that analysis. Well done, sir.
Thank you. And that's why I wanted to look at the pick. If he slips to the fourth round, even though it might just be a few picks, fourth round running back, I get a little hesitant there.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think people realize too, offensive line play is pretty bad around the league. Like when you look at it, it's pretty, and it really just takes one injury, right? I mean, look what happened with my Dallas Cowboys this year. Mm-hmm. It took one or two injuries, and then it's like, oh my God, what happened to Zeke? Well, nothing really happened to Zeke. His offensive line was in shambles. They had a right guard playing left tackle. They had all kinds of problems down there, and so I think that's a great point. No, I enjoy that. All right, we're at 210. What do you got, Dave? Where are you at now?
This is where I think I'm swinging for the fences here, and I think this running back actually has the highest ceiling out of this class. And well, I'm going to say it. Highest ceiling in this class. I'm going
bad take. Here we go.
Bad take or no? Hot I'm take. Going Chuba Hubbard with Green Bay. I think he could there's a very good chance that he could be the RB1 in a committee with AJ Dillon if that's how. Like if Aaron Jones leaves and it's just AJ Dillon and Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, I'll take Hubbard. He handled 25 carries a game, had a lot of receptions, or hit that reception threshold. It's got the speed, and in that offense with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and the way that they scheme and the way that running game works, I get really excited about Chuba Hubbard, and I'm really excited to get him here. I get really excited and to take this kind of swing at this point in the draft. Yeah, I'll take some Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, no, I like Hubbard. It's weird. He's a weird prospect, just what he went through this year. And I think that he's a great value pick because I think people are down on him for, I don't know if it's good reasons or not. I just think maybe it's one of those things where like they hear everybody else is down on it. And so that's part of it. So I can see it being that. All right. John, do you have anything with that?
Yeah, really quick with Hubbard. Again, he was mentioned in the same breath as Travis Etienne coming into 2020. If he would have declared, people were all about him after that 2019 campaign, but then he came out and really came back down to earth. Wasn't horrible by any means, but it wasn't what we saw in 2019. And I just think, same thing with Etienne. Like I said earlier, when Hubbard and Etienne decided to come back for the 2020 season in college, oh, well, that 2021 class, it's going to be, that makes that class a little bit stronger. And we're at the end of the second round and Hubbard's still there. So it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting pick. I like it. Hey, you're going to get AJ Dillon Hive coming after you, Dave, here in a while. Hey, running back one guys out there.
Bring it.
All right, so I'm at 211, and we got to kind of move on a little bit. I'm going to take Diami Brown from North Carolina. A wide receiver I really like. I enjoy. I think he kind of checks the boxes. Again, he's quick. He has good release. He went to the Browns. I don't necessarily love that spot, but I think that he could fit in there. What do they do with OBJ? Maybe they move him. Maybe they don't. Or maybe he can just kind of fit in there. I think he's better than the receivers that they've had there. Even Higgins and those guys. I think Diami can step in there and actually produce a role in the slot. So I'm taking Brown from North Carolina. All right. And then, John, where you're at now?
Well, so I messaged you in the private chat here. I said, do you guys mind if I bounce after this next pick? If we're going to go quickly, I can stick around, but that's up to you guys. I didn't want to know how in-depth you want to get.
Let's go quicker, and then, because it's the third anyway, so we'll kind of just go through. We've been talking. Perfect. I knew getting us all together, we're going to talk way too much, so it's all right. So we'll get.
I don't know why I told my wife, an hour. And
no.
Why did I think that? Especially with the way I ramble. Come on.
Us guys, that's not happening. But yeah, we'll go a little quicker. We'll just kind of get through it.
Perfect. 2-2 Atwell at 212 in Houston. He fits a lot of those the thresholds. 20% or 20-year-old breakout age, 34% dominator rating, 21 years old coming in. He's smaller. I know he's smaller. A lot of people, they see 5'9", they're like, I don't want that. But Houston, I do think that's this one for me. He got bumped up just a little bit. I have him a little bit lower here typically, but Houston, I like the landing spot, and I just think there's a really nice opportunity for him. Who's going to be the quarterback? We're not sure, but hopefully we find that out any day now.
Yeah, no, I like Tutu. I think that's fine. I think landing spot determined, but he's quick, man, and he's a lot of fun to watch. All right, well, we're in the third round now, and these are going a little bit faster. Dave, what do you got in the third?
So I'm just going to go real quick. I'll just take the running back upside. I'll go Jamar Jefferson to Buffalo. He had a really great freshman season, struggled after that, but he had the athleticism, receiving ability, and there's always that hope of, he could take over that backfield. I don't think Buffalo wants to do that. I think they want to be a pass-heavy offense. But yeah, I'll take Jamar Jefferson here.
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to take Jamar, so that really screws me up here. No, I think that's good. If he goes to the Bills need a running back, right? And they've tried multiple times to get one, so maybe they'll hit it there.
Can I ask really quick? And I know I'm the one that said, let's speed this up, guys. But I have somebody analytics-based. I have somebody that, Kev, Devi, you've seen the film on these guys. If Jamar Jefferson goes in the 4th round, and maybe I'm just blinded by that 4th round draft capital, do you guys think Marlon Mack is a good comparison there? Or is it crap? And you can tell me it's crap.
No, I don't hate it. I think Mack's better. I think Mack would be much better, and I think that some people have Jefferson really high. I don't have Jefferson that high. I don't know what they see in Jefferson, especially in Pac-12, Oregon State. He never really popped off the tape for me. I think Mack pops off the tape for me. But I don't hate the comp, but I think Mack is definitely his ceiling, if I had to say that. I don't know if Dave agrees. Maybe, yeah.
I just, for the sake of moving on, I don't see the Mack comparison. I think Mack was probably a better wide receiver, better catching the ball, and he did it at a higher level. What could have been with Mack, but anyway.
All right, I'm gonna take a guy that I'm really not that high on, but I think at a certain point you got to try to grab him. And he went to Arizona, and that's Kadarius Toney from Florida. I'm not as high as other people. I mean, I see people out there touting him as a top 5. I just think at this point in the draft, in the 3rd, I'll go with the high ceiling. Give me Toney in Arizona, who I think, Kirk, who knows what's going on there. I think the Andy Isabella's experiment's over. And so if Toney can slip in there and kind of give them that production, I actually don't hate the pick. So I'm going to take Toney at the 302.
303.
Yep.
Landing in New England, I'll take Seth Williams. I still somebody that again, in this wide receiver group, I think he just gets thrown in there. But at this point in the draft, I just think there's, again, a lot of opportunity there in New England, especially if they bring somebody in that is more willing to throw the ball than maybe Cam Newton was, or at least how they drew it up with Cam Newton in quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think Seth's good. I just think he had Bo Nix throwing in the ball. There's only so much from him, what you saw. He's got to work on his drops. He has some costly drops. But at this point, yeah, no, I agree. I like that one. We're at 304. Dave, what do you got?
I'll keep banging the running backs here. I'll go Kylan Hill. I like his receiving ability and just his overall workload and his overall production. And with Cincinnati, he lands behind Joe Mixon. I think if in a high volume offense, if everything hit in Cincinnati, they get better. That could be an offense I'd really like to have a piece of. And at this price, I'll go Kylan Hill.
Okay, no, that's fair. And hey, Joe Mixon, running back 1, right? I don't know. So when we're going through these guys, again, I think some of these landing spots are really bad for the running backs. But I'm going to take at 305. I'm going to take a running back just because I need to. When you're looking at the running backs, where you're going to reach, where you're going to get it. I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson, and he went to the Raiders, which is the reason why I don't necessarily love his landing spot with Jacobs. But you know what? They were giving the ball to Devontae Booker in crunch time and goal line carries. So for me, maybe that would be a good spot for him. I mean, not a great spot, but for me right now at the 305, I'll take Ramondre Stevenson and just kind of roll and hope some upside pick. So, all right. And that, we're at 306. Go ahead, John.
Just because of the question marks at the quarterback position, I mean, clearly he's still going to get the opportunity, but does he grow it all? I don't know, but I'm going to go Kyle Trask with the New York Giants. I like Daniel Jones. He was my 2nd round guy, similar to, obviously completely different profiles, but he was my, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, probably Mac Jones in this season as well. But this year, if Daniel Jones has 50 fumbles again and they're not winning, maybe they want to see what they have in Kyle Trask with the New York Giants. I'll take him here in the middle of the 3rd.
All right, Dave, 307.
I have 3 players I want to take here. I'm just going to lean and go Seth Williams here.
No, you're not. I took him already.
Yeah, he already drafted him. Sorry.
Seth Williams. Oh, my. Oh, I missed that one. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Seth Williams went at 303.
Oh, that's why. Okay, I'm trying to do a little like math here. So okay, well that's why that's why Seth Williams was like sticking out. I was like, what? So I guess I'll go Pat Freiermuth here. I'll go tight end. I love I know this isn't tight end premium, but in tight end premium, I love taking shots in the third round. So it's just like, as a guy here, this is a good class. We only had 2 go off the board.
I actually kind of say I had him at 210 initially, but the more I look at that Buffalo landing spot, because I still believe in Dawson Knox, I actually faded him off of my list here, even though I had him at 210.
Okay. It's funny you were thinking about tight end. I'm going another tight end. I'm going Hunter Long. And I think that Hunter Long going to the Patriots. Patriots need a guy there. I actually like Hunter. I think that he has the safest floor of a lot of these middle tier tight end guys that we're talking about now. He's not going to be great. He's not going to kill everything, but I think I like Hunter and I like that spot. So I'm going to go Hunter Long there. All right, 309, so we can get John out of here so his wife doesn't kill him.
I annoy the crap out of her. She's going to kill me anyway. Javian Hawkins, Los Angeles Chargers. We're all looking for that 1-2 punch there in Los Angeles. And last year, I think people were trying to hype up Josh Kelly to get us there, that 1-2 punch, the thunder and lightning almost, if you will. But Javian Hawkins, I think he could surprise some people. I'm still a big Austin Eckler fan, but Javian Hawkins, maybe he can do some damage, especially in the back end of the third round.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that pick. All right, last 3 picks here. Dave, 310.
Now, would I take him probably here? But no, but I just want to have a chance to highlight him because he's my sleeper of this draft. Isaiah McCoy out of Kent State, age-adjusted production, breakout age, three early declare. There's a lot to like about. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. I haven't heard a lot. Peter Howard's talked about him a bit, but he's someone that I'm just hoping that I'm going to scoop up a lot in the 4th round.
I love Isaiah McCoy. You just took my pick. Damn it. I've been talking about him for a while now. I love that guy. I think that he's going to be a steal. You take him in the 4th round and you're going to get a guy. Everybody listening, take Isaiah McCoy, unless you're playing in my league. Those are the guys I like. Since he took my guy, I do want to highlight a few. I'm going to take Amari Rodgers. He went to the Texans from Clemson. Some of these guys, again, Nico's still there and these other guys, but I'm going to take Amari. I know that landing spot I think that he could be a good, pretty solid slot player. And in our last pick here is John. What do you got, John?
So you guys kind of highlighted, players that aren't really mentioned. I have 2 names here that have been mentioned that I'm completely avoiding, but then I'll give you my 312. Tamorrion Terry and Sage Surratt, 2 guys that I'm out on. You can have them if you want them. I've seen people even mention those names at the end of the 2nd. No. By all means, go ahead. I'm going to stick with the Superflex theme, though. If he goes to New England, Jamie Newman. We talk about rushing upside. He's able to move, but at this point in the draft, is he going to hit? Most likely not. We don't need Dave's spreadsheets to tell us that hit rate. Probably very minimal. But Jamie Newman, if there's question marks in New England, we've seen that. Oh my God, I made it through this whole show. The quarterback in New England, not Cam Newton. Oh my God,
Jarrett Stidham.
Holy cow, Dave, you were rubbing off on me forgetting names.
What names are? It's all about the stats.
I know. Oh my gosh, yeah, Jarrett Stidham. I don't think he's the guy as Jamie Newman. Probably not, but at this point, I'll take him.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I think you're right on those 2 guys you mentioned. Terry can't catch. He can do everything else. He looks amazing, but Tamorrion Terry cannot catch the ball. He has a really problem with drops. So I don't mind missing on that. And then Sage Surratt does not. He doesn't do anything for me. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really do. And I know we spent almost 2 hours here doing this. I did not think it was going to go that long, but I should have known better. And so, I mean, you guys, you got to follow these guys. I want to give them a little bit of time real quick to kind of plug anything that they have. I know they have great returns. I know they have great shows. They really are the 2. When I'm saying guys that I really respect and trust and just that good people, these 2 guys are for me, the guys that you really should follow. And just, I don't want to get all sad because it sounds weird, but no, these guys really, I really respect them. And they've meant a lot to my career, and it's short. I've only been doing this for 7 months, but they've really meant a lot to me. So I really appreciate them coming on at any point. So John, why don't you go ahead and tell us where they can find you and some other things, and you can get out of here. And make sure you tell your wife, I'm sorry, that it's your fault, not mine, but I can buy her something for her, and we'll be there.
She knows I have a tendency to ramble, so she'll trust me. She knows it's on me. But yeah, Kev, I mean, you and I, we've had some great conversations, and, Dave as well. You two, we talk about it off the air a little bit. So much drama on Twitter all the time, left and right. You two are two names that you never see in that mix. And I joke 2019 John, he would have been mixed up in that, but 2020 John, 2021 John, it's not worth it. It isn't worth it at all. But yeah, so I'm John Bauer. Find me on Twitter at the Bauer Club. Check me out at Dynasty Theory and Fantasy Football Confidential. And if for some reason you're crazy enough and you want exclusive bonus content, check out patreon.com/Dynasty Theory. We do breaking news podcast, team reviews, league breakdowns, Sunday morning live show, the Discord chat, conversations 24/7. We have crazy people in Europe that, based on their schedule, we're going 24/7. But yeah, this was a ton of fun. We could have gone for 5 more hours probably. But yeah, Kev, thank you so much for having me.
Yep. And Dave, where can we get you guys?
So before I give the old sign off here, I just want to say, Kev, thank you for having me on. The fantasy football community has meant a lot to me personally this past year. I know everyone's had their own personal trials that they've gone through. What the community has provided for me in friendship and camaraderie, an ear to talk to, and give me a passion to follow for the last couple of years here has meant an incredible amount to me. And Kevin, I wish we talked more. John, I wish we talked more. And this is the exciting part of the offseason that I get to talk to you guys. I can't wait to have more conversations as the offseason progresses. But and as far as drama is concerned, hey guys, be nice, be kind. I think that's John does always the be kind sign off there. But I just want to say too is try to look to get your leagues more involved in charity. Put a percentage of your prize pot to charity in your dynasty leagues. Think of that. Look at the SFB Podathon. Me and Sal Lito and some other people are going to start ramping up some fundraising for that. I'll be probably in a lot of people's DMs. But you can find me at DLF, writer for there, co-host at Tale 2 Rivals, co-host over at Rookie Viewer Pod. And yeah, check out my Patreon at FF_Spaceman. And yeah, I wish I could say more, guys. I really, this meant a lot coming on and talking to you guys. It was really a pleasure.
No, I appreciate you guys and everybody listening. Be sure to find us on Twitter, find us if you're seeing on the YouTube channel, give us a like or subscribe, and we appreciate you for joining us, and we look forward to the next one.
Appreciate it.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to Hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.